start fresh.
Da-da-da-da-da,
Ah,
boom.
okay, so welcome Frances Carbonnel to the Create Your Musical Freestyle Facebook group. As you know, I like to interview some amazing writers and trainers and freestyle designers because I just want to share all this information so that people can, be inspired and motivated to create their own freestyle as well. And Frances actually lives in the same town as I do, which is awesome. We're both in Tallahassee, Florida. And she has a beautiful barn there, which used to be owned by my other friend, Marcia, who's been on here as well.
It's a
So
very
small
small
world.
world.
I know. And my first introduction to you, Frances, was at the Western Dressage Association, like the big world championship show. And where was that? In Ohio? Was it way up
No, there was one for a while. It was in Tulsa, and
Tulsa?
then it moved to the Lazy E, in it's also in Oklahoma, but
Okay. I
a little
think
further out.
that's probably where I saw you. I remember I
Yeah,
went
it's
there
probably
twice.
at the Lazy E.
Yeah, yeah, to watch. And it was so
That's
fun
when
to watch.
Marcia.
Yeah, the freestyles were amazing. Like the Western Dressage Association, kudos to them, has done such an amazing job of promoting it. And then they have a costume class, and like the schedule was jam-packed full of freestyle. So I loved it. And you've been like one of the few riders who's shown at the level 4 freestyle, which is the highest level they offer now, right? I don't
Well,
think
I don't know whether they have a level 5 now in
Oh, that's
Western
right.
Dressage,
That's right.
and I think they have level 5 freestyle offered. I don't know how many people are doing it, but
Yeah.
I think it's offered, and I think there are most likely there are some people doing it.
Yeah.
It's just that gets to almost like a pre-St. George
Yeah.
level. Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
cool. You'll
fun.
have to do that with Galileo.
I think so. I'd like to because it has full pirouettes and it has
Yeah.
pivots, full pivots as well, which is very, very different, because
Yeah.
um, you have to teach your horse two different movements,
Hmm.
one Western and one more classical.
Yeah, I know. That's definitely an interesting training thing that we can kind of talk about a little bit. But I'd like to make sure that, like, since people are watching this from the beginning, I want them to learn more about you if they've never heard of you before. And so just take them through because she does classical dressage as well as Western dressage. So it's such a great background. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to Frances.
Well, thank you, Sandra. Um, I've been in this business since probably BC. I'm 76 years old and I've been at it for about 40 years.
Amazing.
So um, it's a wonderful opportunity to talk about this because it's evolved enormously and I've seen most of the evolution. I can remember when they didn't offer freestyle in regular dressage.
Right.
And so then, and back then there wasn't Western dressage. I was very much involved in showing regular dressage and had my Iberian stallion that I showed up through Grand Prix and got my medal. And my motivation for getting my gold medal was so that I could show freestyle,
Yeah.
you know. And back then, um, then it got enormously popular. And then USDF started making lots and lots and lots and lots of rules about things like how you could qualify to do it and so forth, because I think there were some people kind of went and weren't the best prepared to do it.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of sloppy and they wanted to fix it up. Of course, now you see what they do at the Olympic level. It's amazing.
Hmm.
But in fact, that's what everybody likes to see at the Olympic level.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've been involved since the 1980s in dressage. And then when Western Dressage came along, I was invited to the very first meeting that Ellen DeBella had in Colorado, in Castle Rock. And she invited a whole bunch of people that were actually from the rodeo world and all kinds of things to try and kick this off. Aton Beth Halleck had been a protege of hers for doing Western Dressage, if you can remember. Did a lot of
Yeah.
exhibition stuff early on. And Ellen had this amazing idea to form an association that wasn't just to promote Eton, but to get everybody that had a Western horse that was tired of doing Western pleasure, that didn't want to do reining, wasn't gutsy enough to go run a cow down a fence, but still wanted to do something wonderful with their horse and wanted it to be beneficial for them and their horse and something that's really fun socially. And that's what I will say about Western Dressage Association is they are a bunch of really fun people. They enjoy the show process at the world. People cheer for each other, and they're we all party together, and it's so it can be it's a little different than some of the United States Dressage Federation championships where things are taken a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, I've definitely I've been to both for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it was a great privilege to be part of that. I was with Cliff Swanson and Nighty Cooley, and I came up with a program to kind of help educate people to what Western dressage is in the very early stages. And we did a program called Train the Trainer,
Mm,
which we traveled for about 5 years and saw over 550 professionals in
wow.
a 3 day seminar on how to what it was, how to do it, and it evolved over time from something very basic into things that were a lot more to do with biomechanics and things like that to help people understand why dressage for the Western horse.
Hmm.
So that's how I got involved with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and it's really has grown very fast, I
Yeah,
think. It just keeps getting, I mean, the online championship show, what weren't there? There were hundreds of people in each
yep.
class. It's crazy.
It, it's really quite amazing. I mean, we started out with 137 rides, our first championship show.
Hmm.
And the last time that I was able to attend, which was before COVID, there were 1,430 rides.
1,400 at one
Four-
show.
1,430 rides at one show for five
Wow,
days. Yeah.
that's crazy. Whew.
So, I mean, they do rail classes for equitation because they really want to promote good riding
Hmm.
and tactful riding and harmony. Harmony is a big thing with that association. They want people to uh, ride in a way that is kind to their horses
Hmm.
and effective. And
Yeah.
so they have the
Because
equitation.
on the test, they have the extra, like they break it down so the harmony is actually more heavily weighted than a regular test. I've noticed.
True,
Yeah.
because you know regular dressage it's all about the gaits, you
Hmm.
know, and if you have a horse that moves like an 8 gait, you start out with an 8 and you have to really flub up to get a 7.
Hmm.
But Western dressage doesn't look for those big, huge movements. They look for suppleness and softness and obedience and harmony between the horse rider pair.
Hmm.
And that's what makes it a bit different from regular dressage. Although I think over the years, regular dressage has kind of gotten a hint too.
Yeah.
And I've
It
seen
has. Yeah.
as roll cur has been exposed to being the wrong path that it was. People have
Hmm.
learned that's not a humane way to treat a horse. They've returned to the classical principles.
Oh, good. There's a few people in here. I was waiting. It's so funny. So I have a couple people are in here. They said they're here, Cynthia and Talia. But it
Hello.
says 0 viewers. That's so weird. So my dashboard, but there's a couple comments, so that's great. So I'm glad you guys have commented. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions as we're going on for Frances about anything she's talking about, just post it in the comments and hopefully I should see it. I'll keep refreshing it. It's so weird. It's not, so like I told you, every time is different. Okay, Michelle is here too. Great. Yeah, it's so weird, my insights. Okay, well, I'll just go by the comment. There might be more people here. It says 0 viewers, but obviously there are viewers. So I will
Okay.
ignore that part and I will just check out the comments. So you guys just go ahead and ask questions whenever you want to. But we're just going
Yeah.
through Frances's her background. She's classical dressage and also, and Leah's here too. Great. And talking about the development of Western dressage through her, because she's seen it from the very beginning. So yeah, go ahead and keep going with your story. Sorry, they may have seen the whole thing. I just noticed that they were here, so it's my fault.
Well, you know, one of the things in the development of the Western dressage freestyle process was a wonderful woman named Dolly Hannon, who is an largest judge. And Dolly is on the USDF faculty now, and
Hmm.
she teaches about freestyle, but she had developed a really excellent way of scoring freestyle.
Hmm.
And that made it so much easier for people to understand and for the judges to understand how to score it, because this is something that has evolved very quickly in probably 15 years,
Hmm.
from some pretty basic weird stuff to some remarkably complex choreography, both in both disciplines. And
Yeah,
Dolly figured out a way to to manage that, which is used internationally.
right.
But she was on the staff or advisory board for WDAA also, and she judged at several of the shows. She and Debbie Rodriguez were good friends. Did a lot to help that organization grow up that way too.
Nice. Yeah, I recognize both their names. So, and I'm probably from the regular dressage stuff.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
definitely more regular dressage stuff now. But
Mhm.
anyway, yeah, I haven't shown since COVID, partly because I bought a farm, and oh my goodness, that turned into quite an adventure.
Yeah, you moved from Colorado
Colorado,
to
yeah,
Florida.
and to Florida. Oh my gosh. And then had to do a lot of revamping of the barn, and the whole learn the Florida climate, which has been fascinating and quite
Yeah.
difficult at times.
We were just talking before we went live about the horrorful animals of Florida.
Oh,
We had the fire ants, and then she had a tick in her ear, caused an ear infection, and like crazy, like all the animals and the snakes and all the
oh yeah, and
stuff.
most of them that you can't see because of all the vegetation that grows like crazy this time of year. I
Yeah,
mean,
constantly. Yeah.
I no longer get my farm finally mowed, then I start at one end and go to the other and then start again. And
Yep.
we keep going.
That's the way it is. Everybody says the same thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
and I also want to mention to you guys, they're in the comments. I tried to do a pinned comment. I'm not sure if it's still there or not, hopefully. And it has the link to her one of her level 4 freestyles, which has a Zorro theme. And then I'll post a couple other videos when we're done as well. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your freestyle process. Like when did you start?
Yeah.
Did you show any USDF freestyles before, or did you kind of start with the Western?
I did. I showed a Grand Prix freestyle with my stallion Fino.
Uh-huh.
And in full dressage regalia, the shad belly, and back then you could wear a top hat.
Yeah,
So
the top hats.
this was pre helmet days. But yes, I did show that and loved doing that one. It was to John Tesh of all things.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, you'd think a Spanish horse would want Spanish music, but he never did. So, but back in those days, we didn't have the editing abilities that y'all have now.
Hmm. Yep.
I mean, Sandra has made it so easy for everybody to edit music with her advice. I mean,
Trying.
it's phenomenal what you can do with your own computer. And back in those days, we went through this very laborious process with a boombox,
Oh, yes.
and CDs, and you'd record something on your computer, which back in those days had a little thingy, a little drawer that you could record music on a CD, and then you'd take it to the barn and you'd play it and you'd see, well, that works. Oh, that doesn't work. And I was lucky. I had an indoor that had mirrors, so I could kind of see whether or not the music fit the horse, not just from a standpoint of beats per minute.
Hmm.
That's the easy part. The
Right.
hard part is finding music that makes your horse look better than he is
Yeah.
without the music.
Hmm.
And so you can get. I had a little half Arab horse that had a very odd trot, and he went very well to syncopated jazz.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, he would, nobody else has ever been able to ride to that freestyle because it doesn't fit, but his trot. But he went all the way to I-1 with that. So, you know, we did some fun things like that. I've done some boogie woogie. I've done some um, movie themes. I have never done show themes, although that's very fun thing to do if you're doing regular dressage. Western dressage makes it a little tougher because people like to have people like to have a Western theme,
Yeah.
and frankly, it's a bit problematic because you have all these wonderful Western artists, but they're vocalists, and
Yeah.
so it's difficult to get music that doesn't have a lot of vocals to it,
Hmm.
and that's distracting for a judge.
Yeah. Frances,
So,
you tip your
oops,
there
sorry,
you go. I didn't have your chin.
better.
That's better.
Okay.
But that's a
So,
yeah, talk about that more because that I haven't really that's a good comment, about the music because I do think it is a little tricky for people to find original music. It seems like a lot of it keeps getting reused, maybe.
well, you know, there's this whole issue of copyright, and depending on how you use it, if you're doing it for competition, there doesn't seem to be a problem with licensing. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing it for entertainment, paid entertainment, there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be very careful in what you choose or have a license to use, uh, to pay the royalties due to
Yeah.
the artists.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Western dressage, I've seen some really fun, upbeat freestyles, and I've seen some absolute disasters because people chose music that meant something to them
Mm-hmm.
sentimentally, and they completely ignored the fact that it didn't go well with their horse.
Right.
You know, it made the horse look clunky, or it was too slow, or the horse wasn't on the beat. And that's something you can fix with computers a bit now. But
Mm-hmm.
still, you want to choose something right now from the very beginning that makes your horse look perkier and fun to ride, and you want to see them be on the beat, particularly at the canter. That's hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Western music. Western music is usually 4/4 time,
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, which is not easily translatable to a good canter sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say lope.
Right. I know. I'm
So
bad about I always switch back and forth.
yeah, well, I guess I show my classical roots there because it's hard
Yeah.
for me to, like the pivot that is done in Western dressage.
Mhm.
Western horses, it's like a slow, it comes out of the spin, but it's not a spin because they don't want to put the stress on the horse's hocks and stifles that the spins do.
Right.
There's a lot of reining horses when they spin end up, particularly as young horses, ruining their hocks and their stifles because it's pretty violent turning. So the pivot is evolved out of that, and the idea is that the horse has to turn around the inside hind foot,
Right.
and the hind foot stays put for 2 to 3 strides before it lifts up again.
Hmm.
Whereas in the regular walk pirouette for regular dressage, the horse is actively walking with the hind feet in a
Right.
very small circle. So it has some differences in the training. The Western dressage really favors the rein back,
Hmm.
because Western horses do a lot of that,
Yeah.
and so in the tests they've incorporated some rather interesting um, pivot movements and uh, turns on the forehand. They have
Hmm.
one movement that's turn on the forehand followed 180 degrees, followed by turn on the haunches 180 degrees.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
And it's with no halt in between, no adjustment. You just go from one to the other, which is pretty, you know,
Yeah.
it's original, but it's very, very common. With you see Western horses have to move their haunches over, close a
Right.
gate. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the Western
So
dressage freestyle. Go ahead.
so you were
Pardon?
I know I wanted to mention the rain back was really cool. So it's movements like halt, rein back, but pivots not so much, but a little bit. Like in freestyle, you really don't have like the turn on the haunches or any of the halt movements are judged or the rein back. So I find like
Ah,
you don't have the flow like I mean like the most of it's all forward motion, right? So in the Western, the cool thing is that you get judged on the an extra halt, you get judged on the rein back, you get judged on a pivot. Whereas I see like that's a really cool like that you could incorporate that creatively with the music, but maybe it's also a little
mhm.
tricky because you need to accent that the transitions and the change of the gait even at the lower levels, like even an intro, there's a halt, like a random halt you're supposed to put in there. So,
That's right. That's absolutely right because um and so it it can give you wonderful opportunities to interpret music. On the other hand, it can be a real pain in the butt. For
yeah.
instance, the freestyle that I did with Esteban, um, the year that I did the How the West Was Won freestyle, they wouldn't allow me to do at that level flying changes. It
Mm,
had to all be simple changes through the walk, which
mm,
is hard to do and maintain flow and energy. Um, my Zorro freestyle, I started out halt, rein back 6 steps, pivot a 180, no, 400 and however many, 1.5 turns, and then cantered off
yeah.
because I wanted to get that out of the way. And the music actually lent itself very easily to that.
Yeah.
So, and it's not something you would probably think of to do in an exhibition, but that was a way to get that movement done in a very easy way for the judge to see it
Yeah.
because it's
No, I
on
love
center
it.
line.
If it didn't stay commented, I'll add it afterwards. But I see that I'm not sure if it's Thalia or Talia.
Oh yeah, Thalia. Hi.
Yeah, she put your Esteban's YouTube from 2017, your freestyle. So that's in there. So people can click on that one, which that's
Okay.
great. And then we have a couple questions we should just kind of let me go back. Cynthia asked when we were talking about Western dressage, like showing, she said, do you think it's more financially feasible than regular dressage, or this the costs about the same, you think?
I honestly think it's much more affordable
Hmm.
because all breeds of horses are encouraged, and you don't have to have a $50,000 horse to compete. You can take your little backyard quarter horse and train that quarter horse, which is America's horse,
Hmm.
and or your paint horse or your Appaloosa. We even had a mule and a mammoth jack one year and he competed
Huh.
because he was an equine. We didn't
Yeah.
have it saying only horses, and so we had one mule that had very floppy ears, which was hilarious. They
Now,
even
what
had
music did
gated
they
horses.
ride to? You could ride to some fun music
Well,
with that.
yes, it was very fun, and the mule's ears flopped, and everybody would had the giggles. I mean, I sat there and just about busted a gut. It was just so cute. And we have people that ride side saddle. We have people that ride gaited horses, and there's some very wonderful Tennessee Walker trainers that come, or Rocky Mountain horses, or foxtrotters that do really well in the gaited classes. And some of them are very supple and very able to do the lateral movements, which, everybody says, oh, they can't do that. Well, yes, they can.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I know they does it a separate class and they're doing the same test or yeah, because it's not a separate dressage test for them. It's just they're put
No,
in.
it is a separate test for gaited horses.
Okay, okay. I
They
think
they
I
they're
remember
they're
that.
not plunked in with the three gated horses,
Okay.
the walk trot horses, because they're the judging criteria is a little bit different. Actually, when it comes right down to it, the whole issue is, well, does a horse have a regular rhythm, just like a horse should have a regular rhythm at the trot or at the walk.
Hmm.
But that's harder for most judges who have no experience with gaited animals to discern. So they just made it easier.
Yeah.
Put all the gaited horses together.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we have another question from Leah. She asks, how can you get an intro level Western dressage freestyle to be exciting and not just look like a test? And I'm definitely I'm working on this right now in a choreography ebook. And yeah, the lower levels is a lot harder to make it interesting.
Yes, yes, I agree. Hey, Sandra, I have a whole somewhere I've got stashed a bunch of tests that or not tests but freestyles for at different levels that for people to try out and so forth. So I'll share them with you.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And some of them, I mean, the problem is that there's very few required movements at an intro level.
Mhm.
That's very difficult. But you could do something really nice with walk at intro that could be very um, mood enhancing. You could really use something like with Dances with Wolves. There's a couple of really beautiful, heartfelt pieces in there. And in Zorro, there's a love theme that is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so there are ways to do that that you can write it with a little bit of soul.
Yeah, and I think too, like if you're good at potentially like editing the music, so you can go back and forth, you can also change like put your working walk and your free walk separate. Like so instead of putting all the walk work together, do
Right?
your
Which course,
working walk
which is important.
section, do your trot, your halt, whatever, go back to free walk, like so you have ups and downs, even though it's just walk trot. And then the halt, the added halt that you have to do, making sure that that is really accented to the music and you're spot on and that everything, matches really well. It can be pretty dramatic. And the walk, if you match the horse's beat, if you have a very steady walk, it
Exactly.
can be really fun that, but if your horse
It,
doesn't have a steady walk, then do the more moody, like soft, romantic kind of non-beat music is really
right.
cool for the walk. Yeah.
Um, they if you can find something, if you have a horse that will march to music,
Mhm.
really walk out to music, find something that's really upbeat and marchy, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. And I
So
have definitely, I can also, if anybody in the comments isn't sure how to find your horse's beats per minute, I can put I have a YouTube video that shows you how to do that. So, I can remember to put that down there. Just so if you're working on it, it's really simple
okay,
video. Now you were talking about the freestyles. I know that for a while you had a friend who was you guys were like partnering to create freestyles for people.
yes,
And
that was a gal named Jillian Lee. She's a wonderful musician,
mhm,
operatic vocalist, but she had wonderful computer programs back in the day before things came up like what you are using that are so
right.
much easier. And she I told her what I wanted to do with for Zorro. She
Hmm.
took the entire movie score,
Hmm.
the entire score, and pulled out all the good bits and put them together.
Yep.
It was astounding. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it. And she had it down to the second.
Hmm.
And so the music flowed as though it had been composed, which in fact it kind of had been that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that can be done if you have a real creative bent for editing music. Boy, there's some wonderful things that you can do, but you don't have to make it terribly complicated. And at the lower levels, you shouldn't.
Right.
One of the things that I will say though is, if you have a gypsy horse or a Frisian that has a huge tail, or lots of feathers or whatever, don't do a lot of anything complicated. Like for instance, well, I should say this is probably level one with leg yields. Don't do it away from the judge,
Right.
or you can't see anything, right?
Yeah. Or
So
people do that because
I
they're
had
trying to hide it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had a gal that called me. She was in California. She had a lot of really lovely gypsies, but they were super hairy. And I mean, the tails on those horses were as big around as a tree trunk. And she came to me with this really, the happy song. And it was the cutest thing for this horse. But the person that had choreographed it for her, who I can't even remember the name of, but who had been advertising as a freestyle creator, had this horse doing leg yields away from the judge, and you couldn't see a doodly squat. So we didn't change the music, we just changed the choreography so that her leg yields were toward the judge,
Yeah.
and some other things like that enhanced the and made some different, more better use of the arena. That's
Mhm.
one of the things that's the hardest thing is to do at the lower levels, is to not just go circle, 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 circle some more. Um, so you can do there's an exercise that I like that's called the bow tie, where you go up the long side, come around at C, go on the diagonal back to E, for instance,
Mhm.
and then do a circle in the middle there,
Mhm.
and then go on up the long side and come back around and do the same thing coming the other direction. So you can, if you had to do leg yield or a later date, maybe even a half pass, you could do it there. You could put shoulder in on the long sides after the circles. There's
Mhm.
all kinds of things that you can do with an exercise like that that are, I learned that one from Michelle Zalesi, and it's actually works pretty interestingly for freestyle as well.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
is that is that the Michelle that's tuned in?
I'm not sure. Royal, Ruyle is Michelle's
Oh no.
here. But she said she went to a clinic, a 2-day clinic with Dolly with music freestyle. So that's great.
Mhm.
Learned a lot there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we also have Heather made a comment. The issue with intro is changing the music at really long intervals for me for long movements. Yes, the phrasing inside those movements might ask for a change, but then it doesn't happen. So I think there's a few typos. You make that change it. Yeah. So making sure that like even if it's just a simple trot to walk transition, if you're spot on to the music, it's beautiful. If you,
Mhm.
a lot of people when they're first starting, I find, and probably you've seen it too, is they stick to their choreography too much and they don't listen to the music. And then they do
Exactly.
their transition where their choreography is supposed to do it, but the music doesn't happen. And that's where they get all messed up on their
Yeah,
timing.
and then the
Yeah.
judges take off for that in the
Yeah.
interpretation. And the other thing is that some people choose music that doesn't have a lot of opportunities for transitions.
Right.
That
Yeah.
has a steady beat, which is great, but
Mhm.
it's just very monotonous as
Mhm.
far as the beat. There's no crescendos, there's no quiet. There might be an interlude or halfway through the song, there's sometimes the vocalist cuts out and they just do instrumental for a little while.
Right.
And um, things like that can be a, a real asset if you'll use them. You don't always want to use one whole song from an artist.
Right.
You know, I saw somebody that did something one time that was all kinds of American themes, and there was Yankee Doodle and Pop Goes the Weasel and all
Yeah.
kinds of things that was in there, just little bits and pieces. But it was hilarious because we were all going, "Oh my God, there's that! What? Wow!" And
Yeah.
she would interpret that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. When you have like a cool theme, you can definitely change around from different genres and like lyrics and things like that if you have a way to pull it all together. Otherwise, like sticking like you did with Zorro or the what did you say, the Wild West theme, like that's a little easier because your music, the sound will blend better. Sometimes it's a little harder taking music from lots of different artists and
yes, that's
CDs.
much harder
A
oftentimes.
sound will be all over the place, but that's not, you can use the editing program to level it out and it still sounds good. And adding little sound effects and things like that to help with
Mhm.
transitions helps. But
Yeah,
yeah.
we put in whinnies in there sometimes. Well, one time we put in a moo for a cow
Yeah.
at one
Oh,
point,
that's a really good idea. I think I remember. Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's cute, especially like with the clip clop sounds, because you always think about that for like Western shows and things like that.
Well, and like if you're going to do something that's spaghetti Western, they always have the gunshots.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you can do stuff with that.
Mhm.
Um,
I use,
Even if you're just writing a freestyle and not a costume freestyle, and you can still ham it up a little bit. Like when
yeah.
there's a gunshot, you can look around, stop and look around.
That's true. Yeah, that's great. As long as well, actually in Western dressage, you're allowed to talk to your horse, aren't you? Like
Yes,
you don't get
yes, you
taken
are.
off. So even if you made a motion, it's like you're not going to get in trouble. Whereas like a dressage show, you got to be careful that you don't act like you're
Yeah,
talking. You're going to lose points.
right. So, bad thing if you're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
funny.
but
Yeah, and so Michelle asked a question. She said, "Does wearing a costume that matches the music improve your score?" And so we probably should also clarify that when they do the costume classes, it's a separate freestyle class, right? Do you want to explain
true.
how they do that? Because you have your
Well, in
regular
the costume,
freestyle.
yeah. Well, in your regular freestyle, however, you if you have a very quiet freestyle that is a lot of flowing, quiet music, which you might, you don't want to have a spangly shirt on that blinds the judge, with sequins. That's not that's kind of jarring. Conversely, you don't want to show up in white shirt and blue jeans for something that is show tunes or boogie woogie or you know because you can show in white shirt and pressed blue jeans.
Yeah.
That is perfectly fine. But you just don't want to. You'll see when I did the Esteban freestyle, I did it 2 years and modified it a couple of times.
Mhm.
One of them I did and I had American flags on his stirrups, and he had American flags on his wraps
Huh?
and on his head. It doesn't show up very well in the video, but it kind of showed up pretty well for the freestyle. And then the next year I did it differently. 2 years later, I did it differently with a very spangly, bright, ugly shirt, frankly, and it didn't come off nearly as well, I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
So
But that is true. Like in Western dressage, you do have more variety of the outfit. I think now they're getting a little bit better with regular dressage in that you can have color. Like I have a client who did she got a pink jacket for her freestyle. She only wears it for her freestyle because she rides to like 90s pop music. That's Sarah in town,
yeah,
Sarah Mills.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so that is one way you can amp up a regular dressage freestyle, but it's not, but like with the Western, it's very true. And then you can go ahead and talk about the costume class, like the actual costume class.
The actual costume class has been always all
Your
the levels lumped together.
your sound is
So
your sound is coming in a little funny. Has anything changed?
no, I'm sitting here just
Okay. It might be the internet connection. I know we had a lot of storms around, but
storms around and stuff.
I mean,
Oh,
I can still hear you. It's just a little crackly.
oh, that's weird. Okay,
Okay.
well,
You sound a little
um,
better now. You're good.
okay, well, I'll maybe try and bring it a little closer.
There you go.
How's that? Is that any better?
Yeah, that's good. It may have just been a
Okay.
connection thing, but you're good now.
Okay. So where were we? We were talking about costume freestyles.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen The Lion King, we've seen Wicked, we've seen all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be a Western themed costume. And we had some people that did some amazing things with their horses. I mean, the Lion King thing, the horse had a mane, well, like you did with Rovi that one year,
Yeah.
and braided up the tail and put a tuft on the end, and it was and actually painted her horse orange.
Oh, wow.
It
Wow.
was really It was amazing. Yeah. I am a little bit more old fashioned, I guess, because I thought, well, um, but my Zorro costume wasn't just black. I put some red accents and some sequins on it
Mhm.
just to sparkle it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, you can put a mask on your horse. You can put, there's lots of things that you can do in freestyle that to and interpret the music that way.
Right.
So, for instance, if you did something to the Lion King
Mhm.
and it was an intro freestyle, the costume might be over the top. You could
Mhm.
really make the costume over the top, and that would make it much more interesting than just bunking around.
Right.
But when you do the normal freestyle class, you are required to ride in long sleeve shirt with a collar and cuffs, and you have to have boots on. You don't have to have spurs.
Mhm.
You have to have there's tack requirements, but um, the clothing there can be anything that
Yeah.
as long as it's consistent. For instance, if you are a vaquero rider and you're a flat hat rider, okay, and you don't want to ride, you want to ride in chinks. You don't want to ride in long fringe chaps because
Mhm.
they're from the same culture.
Gotcha.
If you have the regular cowboy hat kind of thing, chinks are not chinks are for flat hat riders,
Mhm.
you know, and likewise the rommel is or the bridle with slobber straps for um, for the vaquero rider if it's a young horse.
Hmm.
So they want you to be consistent in your cultural orientation. But
Right.
I've never had anybody ride in a Mexican saddle and a big Mexican hat.
Mhm.
Never seen anybody do that, but the rules don't say you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. I love it. And then like do they have I know at the championship show, that's where they had the big freestyle class, like the competition class where you wear your normal clothes. And
Yeah.
then they had the costume class. It was a separate class, but people usually rode the same freestyle. They just added the costume. Now, if you go to a recognized WDAA show, like a normal show, do they do freestyle or is the costume or is that only at the
No,
championship?
that is at the show organizer's discretion.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. I remember seeing it. It was just so popular. So, but
Yeah,
generally it was the same, and it gave the riders a second opportunity to ride their freestyle and earn another score and another placing, which was great because you spend all this time and energy on your freestyle. You really want to show it off, which I think is really
that's right.
yeah.
But on the other hand, it's exhausting when you're showing at the world show. You show one class from each. You have to show all four levels or all four um, tests of the level.
Oh,
Well, actually, it's not true. You can show only three, but if you show four, you can drop your lowest score.
oh, interesting.
And if you want to go for the overall high point buckle for that level,
Hmm.
then that's how you do that.
Oh,
Well, so the competition is quite fierce every day. And then on top of that, Friday night you have the regular freestyle, Saturday night you have the costume freestyle. So
mhm.
the horses are, particularly at the upper levels, they get a workout.
Yeah, that's a lot. I didn't
Mhm.
know you had to do that. I thought you just pick and choose which tests you want to do.
No.
Huh.
But I mean, you might choose to ride from two different levels, you
Hmm.
know, third and fourth or first and second or something. Can't skip levels.
Yeah.
But and then you'd have twice as many tests. And I've
Hmm.
known people that have done that and very successfully too. They just have horses that are really in shape.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Okay, let's chit chat about what you have coming up because I know you're currently working on a new freestyle and and it's an exhibition freestyle, but you can kind of chat about that because a lot of the people in the group this will kind of give them something to look forward
Right.
to.
Well, there's this wonderful event that happens in October in Ocala called the Ibericon now, but we started out with calling it the Iberian Spectacular. We started out the first year with just 2 nights of entertainment with some wonderful writers and wonderful acts. Then the second year they did it again, but they also added um, things like an ILHA, an International Andalusian and Lusitano show. There was clinics on working equitation, and there were Portuguese revision classes and all kinds of things. And those things will be happening again. But then there are 2 nights again of the freestyle. And it's not musical freestyle, it's exhibitions. This year, the theme is Equus Magnifico.
Mhm.
And Tina wants people to understand that it is all the different things that Iberian horses do and do well. So we'll see some Spanish stuff. We'll see some American stuff. She asked me specifically to do a Western dressage freestyle.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna have to dust off my creative because I don't want to take my old freestyle in. I have a
Yeah.
different horse that it doesn't suit as well. So I need to do something different. But it is always a phenomenal couple of evenings. Last year there were 21 acts. And they
Wow.
had horses. Yeah, it was stunning. They had some big, and they're going to have again some big production numbers with several riders and dancers and
Mhm.
props and all kinds of elaborate things. We've got good lighting, great sound. It's a
Mhm.
show. It's a
Yeah.
real show.
And it's
And
at the World Equestrian Center too. So,
World Equestrian Center, it will be, I believe, in Arena 5.
mhm.
And then they also are having a dressage Iberian Cup
Mhm.
sponsored in Arena 6 for one of the days, or maybe even two. So there's a lot going on in that world. So I'm very excited to be able to do the freestyle, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to show exhibition and freestyle. Go over to the dressage show and show freestyle because I
Right.
don't think they're showing. I don't think they're offering Western dressage. There's a funny hitch in the USEF rules that even though USDF and WDAA are full members of USEF, the USDF did not want US or WDAA showing under the same day. So you have to have a separate show for Western dressage and for regular dressage.
Huh, that's weird. I
So,
thought wasn't a little while they were having, I thought you could ride at, because usually when you ride the USDF shows are USEF shows too.
mhm,
So
mhm.
then there's WGAA like Western Dressage classes, but
Well,
maybe they
maybe that's
took that
changed.
out because I actually haven't seen any this year. Maybe they took it out.
Mhm.
I'd have, if anybody knows, I just would have to double check on the rules. That's interesting. Maybe it has to do because it's a championship show or something a little bit different.
I don't know, but I think on the one hand, the some of the judges they hire can't be used for both, and some can.
Mm,
Some of the judges are very adept at at judging both, but those are um, expensive judges and very knowledgeable judges. They should be expensive because they're very knowledgeable
mhm.
to carry those cards.
Yeah.
And a lot of shows just don't want to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Because in the beginning, they were using basically just the upper level dressage judges for the Western, and but now they have specifically Western dressage judges that have gone
Correct. They
through
have
training.
right. They have training every year in January or February. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's a
that's
very,
awesome.
very good training, by the way.
So
Anybody wants to get involved.
what's your process for freestyle? Are you the kind that likes to do
Hmm.
music first, choreography first? Like, or just mishmash of all of it? Do you have an actual process, or what inspires you?
Well, I have historically gone for my music first.
Hmm.
And then once I've chosen music, not necessarily edited it to its final form, because you got to know how many strides it is across the diagonal during your flying changes and how long that takes.
Hmm.
Um, you can't, you do a rough edit of your music and then you start to write it, knowing what you have to produce as far as movements and knowing what your horse does better than others. For instance, in a Western dressage, they do have a lengthened jog.
Hmm.
Okay, not extended jog, but a lengthening of the jog. Well, some Western horses are not capable of that. They're not physically built for that. They're built a little bit downhill. And that is the reason they were is so that they can rope a cow and not get jerked off their feet. But they don't go across the pasture at an extended trot, they lope. Cowboys lope. They don't do much at the trot.
Hmm.
So, if your horse doesn't do a very good lengthening, you want to do as little of it as possible, the required amount and no more. Like if it's 20 meters, do 20 meters. Don't do an inch more because it's not going to benefit you. You might love trying to do that, but you don't want to put it in 6 times in your freestyle, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Get it over with and go on to something your horse does really well.
Yeah.
Um, and so that to me, you got to have that partnership with your horse and you got to know what your horse is good at. And then you find places in the music to interpret.
Mhm.
And hopefully it's the things that you find to interpret are the things your horse does well, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to, um, if your horse does a 4-beat rein back instead of a 2-beat rein back, do it on the center line facing the judge.
Yeah.
So the judge can't tell.
Yeah.
Don't do it sideways to the judge and have her
Right.
go, oh man, and it's 4-beat. I got to give it a 3,
Yeah.
as a for instance. Um, but there are lots of places in music that have a suggestion of a pivot or a turn on the forehand. A turn on the forehand comes in pretty early.
Mhm.
Um, there are lots of ways that you can do a turn on the forehand and go off a different direction. Do 180-degree turn in the middle of the arena. And if your horse does it really well, you want to show it off.
Yeah.
So, you can get creative with things like that, but always you have the required movements that, um, you know, as you move up the levels a little bit and teach your horse more things, then you get one of the things that I also think is important to try to do while we're at it is that if you're going to choose music and work on music that you really like,
Mhm.
make it so that you can enlarge it a little bit as you grow.
Mhm.
So you can use it for several years. You might be able to use it in an intro level set of music with a little bit of tweaking for basic
Mhm.
or basic to level 1. Um, and that would be my cats are
I
having.
heard your cat.
Can you hear them? They're they're leaping through the air at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, so that saves you money and time, and especially if it's music that you and your horse really like and go well to.
Yeah, I think if you get really lucky and you find music that just really is perfect for your horse, you want to keep that as you go up the levels as best you can. And you can always adjust the BPM up or down a little bit
Exactly.
as your horse develops in training. Usually, when they get more suspension and collection, the BPM can actually get a little bit lower, and
Right.
so but that's not hard to change at all. But yeah, and then sometimes like if you have music, you're like, meh, maybe you have fun changing it up and going to something new, and then you can kind of
Mhm.
bounce back and forth, which is really fun. I do have one client who she learned how to do her own freestyles. She wants to get her bronze medal in her bronze freestyle bar in 1 year. So she created 3 freestyles.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I was like, "Oh wow, okay. Well, you can create similar choreography, like you're saying, like grow up with the same music." She's like, "No, I can't ride to the same music because I won't remember what I'm doing." So, as far as
And
memorize,
you know what? Horses are that way too. I
yeah.
used to ride an Andalusian stallion that we created a freestyle for, and I tried valiantly to try and change his freestyle as he grew, and he would have none of it. He was like, "No, this is what we do now to this music."
Yeah.
I had to start over with something else.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very true. If you have certain transitions, they do listen for the music and they follow it. And if you change little edits, it's like gets really confusing. That's so
And
funny.
horses do they have their opinions about that. That's for sure.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I have one horse that I would take music out to the barn and play and ride to it. And he would tell me which music he liked. And it was sometimes there'd be music that I thought, oh, he'll love this. And we'd go around riding it for 30 seconds and he'd just pin his ears and stop, like, no.
Mhm.
Not hopefully not everybody has as much of a prima donna as I do,
Mhm.
um but your horse will tell you when they start to really swing and get loose and their ears come up and they're having clearly having fun to the music. That's what you should be riding to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you should ride to.
Mhm. I know sometimes people will pick music based on like they'll research the BPM, they know it's the correct BPM for their horse, or they watch it on a video. But then when you go to
Uh-huh.
ride it, your horse is like, man, like it just doesn't feel. And then you try something that's totally off kilter that you would never have tried, and the horse like loves it. So there are definitely instances of that. Now I have we're almost at the end here, but I have one Heather made a comment about judging, and so I want to get your comment. She said she interested in the standards that the judges are taught in order to judge the freestyle. Because as a creator, she's seen a lot of comments and get a feel of some of the comments are super subjective, but presented as real feedback, if that makes sense. She said one client at classical second level got a judge comment that there were too many circles in the program. There were only two 10-meter canters in each side. So she's like asking if that's too many. She says just an example of confusing feedback. So if you know anything about the just the process, if there is a specific judge's training for
There
freestyle.
is for us, there is for both.
Mhm.
Dolly Hannon has been very instrumental in helping people understand how to judge it. Unfortunately, however, freestyle judging is subjective. It's a very difficult task to judge a freestyle because you don't have a test that says, okay, here they're going to do this and here they're going to do that. The rider and horse do things like, for instance, my Zorro freestyle. I come in, I rein back 6 steps, and I do a pivot and a half and take off at the canter. Um, and and then I do counter canter.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's the judge going, oh crap, there's the rein back score. Oh, there's the pivot score. Oh, she's only done one of them, so I got to check that one time, and I got to figure out what I want to give it. And then, oh, she took off and she's doing counter canter now. Okay, so she's doing left counter canter. Got to find that, and the scribes go nuts. Many freestyle judges bring their own scribe for freestyle because that are used to doing it because it's hard to on the fly, particularly as things get more complicated, figure out what the writer's doing, figure out whether they're doing it well or not, and figure out where on the score sheet, to put a mark.
Mhm.
That's why you don't see, I think a lot of times you don't see a lot of uh, comments in the body of the freestyle score sheet. Down at the bottom, there are some things that room for the judge to give comments. And unfortunately, some judges don't like some kinds of music.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Mhm.
or they might not like Appaloosas.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be that way, but
It is.
that happens.
Mhm.
And so most oftentimes you get a freestyle a judge that's a very good regular kind of judge, and they may not have a lot of artistic training and musical training. That's the hard part to teach people is, did they interpret the music? Can you hear when the music changes? Did they, you know, a lot of times writers can't hear it. Well, judges can't either.
Mhm.
So that's a very difficult thing for judges to become proficient at, and it is oftentimes subjective a bit because they might not like your choice of music.
Yeah.
I've had that happen where people have gone, "Oh man, I hated that music," but
Yeah.
and then they gave me technical scores, but my interpretation scores were bombed because she hated the music.
And then you
Well,
write it
you
for
don't
another
show that.
judge who loves it.
Yeah, you just don't know. That happens.
hmm Yeah, and I
So,
and I did talk to someone, another freestyle designer recently, and she said that the judging, like there is a specific freestyle kind of course that they're supposed to go through, and only like half of the judges in the whole United States have basically done it. So
mhm.
it's definitely like there are a lot of people who don't have specific training and they're just kind of winging it. But then I also have seen judges that are very good at it, but they're almost like a little too picky. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
they're getting pickier and pickier. So you've got to be like on it about everything. And so that's where sometimes it can take the joy out of it a little bit when, when you get
Ah,
these
that's
like
right. And that's where
random.
the USDF got a little bit, uh, the technicality.
Mhm.
Um, it, Most of the freestyles that you see at the upper levels do not interpret music. They have music that fits the horse's gait for the movement that they're doing. And it's all chopped up.
Yeah,
It's really not musical freestyle. It is horses riding their best gaits to the music that fits that gait.
right.
Whereas in Western dressage, there is an effort really to try to interpret the music a little bit more, and that's my way of doing it, and that's the way, because I guess I really, when I get inspired by music, all of a sudden I'm going, oh wow, I could put this in there.
Yeah,
Let's try that, and you
yeah.
write it for a while, and you go, well, okay, well that goes fine for just so long. How much music do I have? And how do I edit that? Maybe it ends mid phrase. Where do I do? How do I choreograph that so that the musical phrase ends properly? And I
Mhm.
don't just chop it off mid phrase.
Yeah,
And that's part of the process right there.
yeah. It's an
Um,
artful process, that's for sure.
Many people at the beginning will choose a pattern, at the lower level, because that's the easiest thing to do. We try to create patterns that are not test like,
Yeah,
that do not resemble current tests, so that the judge can't go, oh, well, all she did was write basic test 3.
right, right.
you know. But the danger with that is that you end up doing too many circles,
hmm Yeah, it's
or you
definitely.
do too many
Mhm.
too many too many lateral movements that for instance, half pass zigzags or things like that, and back and forth across the arena without any serpentines or teardrops or things like that. And I'm guilty of that myself.
Mhm.
Um, but you have to balance that with what the required movements are.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Yeah, for sure. Now, since it's 7, I don't want to keep you too long because we're all have our busy lives, but I'm so happy that a lot of people showed up, and I'll
Thank you.
answer other little questions or comments and share the video in the comment area. And I will have this also on YouTube eventually if you want to watch it again. It'll be here in the group. Once it processes, the video will be there. And Frances, where would you want people to follow you? Would you want them to visit your website or follow you on Facebook
Yeah,
or
my website is a good place. Facebook right now, I have a personal page, but my Google business page is I'm having an argument with Google about it, and we're trying to get that resolved by Friday
Okay.
so that can work out. But yeah, I would very much love to, and people can, of course, always email me. There are a few videos of mine on my Facebook channel. Over the years, it's gotten less and less, but I'm going to try and move some of the Western Dressage Freestyles.
Mhm.
If you uh, search on Facebook for WDAA World Show Freestyles
Yeah.
and type in my name after that, I come up. But you'll also see a lot of other ones, wonderful ones too, of
Yeah.
lots of different levels, and that part can be really
Yeah.
instructive.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing is there are a lot of videos and you want to watch as many as you can just to get ideas, about little
Mhm.
things that you like for your horse and choreography things. Like don't just copy somebody's routine, of course. Don't copy their layout, but you can take bits and pieces and you're like, "Oh, my horse could do that. That looks really nice. I like how she started or this or that." So, yeah,
Yeah,
Leah, I will post the links in the comments here. I'll post her website. It's just classicallegacy.com, right? Or
classicallegacydressage.com.
okay, classical legacy. I'll put it there. Cool.
And another thing that I want y'all, if you watch the Zorro video,
Mhm.
you'll notice that there is one big mistake in it. I got
Mhm.
too close to the rail, and my horse went eek, and we had a pirouette that was kind of muffed. Well, it's only one score. You
Mhm.
know, it only took me down for that one score. We recovered, we got our act back together, and carried on without a whole lot of that takes practice to do that, because when you make a mistake, you usually dwell on it in real time, and you shouldn't until after the freestyle's over. Then you can think about it and beat yourself up. But at the moment, you got to ride the next movement.
Yeah.
But you can still have a major mistake like that, and come out on top.
Yeah.
It is, there's that whole issue of freestyle, of it being interpretive,
Yeah.
and
And if you go off
that's
course,
why everybody loves it.
yeah. And if you go off course, like sometimes people go off course because, they're nervous, right? And they forget where they're going a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you like really tune into your music, you can usually make it up. No one noticed that you actually went off course as long as you fit in all your movements.
I remember one time I was doing a second level freestyle in an indoor, and I got completely turned around, and I'm getting down to the end of the freestyle, and I'm headed away from the judge. I was like, shit, I gotta turn around and
Turn around.
face the judge to salute. Needless to
Walk,
say,
turn
that
on
was not,
punches, extended trot.
yeah, that was not one of my better efforts. Oh my goodness, you learn the hard way sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely
So,
freestyle's challenging, fun but challenging for sure.
and you have to have a sense of humor. You
Yeah.
really do.
And if you smile and have a sense of humor towards the judge too, instead of looking like you're about to like throw up or something, they'll usually
Yeah.
a little nicer to you. They won't know you messed up. But this was fun. And Frances is, I think
Thank you.
you're in the group, like you're a member in the group. So if somebody wants to ask you a question too, you can also tag Frances in the comment section and she should see it. And if she doesn't, I'll let her know. If you have anything specific, you can always do that as
Wonderful.
well.
Yeah. Any particular questions or anything that you want to ask, I'm happy to respond.
Yeah. And I'll put a link also to the Iberian, to Ibericon. That way,
Yeah.
any of you guys want to come see that, that'd be great. You can meet Frances and her horse in person as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to be giving some lectures too
Oh,
on
good.
biomechanics, and also on horse brain, human brain, the way our brains and theirs sync and how we're different. Because I think there's been some really interesting neuroscience research that helps us understand horses so much better.
Mhm.
Just on the way our brains are made differently. Um, and it helps a lot with training and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's cool. I love it. Yeah, as we get closer, I'm gonna look at all the different things I'm gonna go watch.
yeah, there are going to be some amazing presenters. I know it's going to be really fun.
That's awesome. Okay, great. Well, I'm gonna let you go so everybody can go have a good evening. I don't know where
Okay, well,
everybody's from, but
thank you everyone for coming and hanging out with us
yeah, it was
and
super fun.
asking questions and stuff. Um, it's been a pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you, Sandra, for
awesome.
inviting
I'll see
me.
you soon, I'm sure.
Okay,
Okay.
let
Bye, everybody.
maybe you and I can do a black and white freestyle
Oh, I
probably one of these
know.
days.
We
Wouldn't that be
do.
fun?
Nico
Yes.
loves to ride with other horses, so he would be great.
I
Does
can tell.
Galileo like to be, is he good riding next to another horse?
He's good riding with other horses. Yeah, he thinks that's wonderful too. So
Okay, yeah,
that could be a lot of fun.
we would do that because Nico would love to do that. That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Okay,
All
cool.
right.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.